can you see my screen okay?
Yes, everything is perfect.
Lovely. Wonderful. Well, yes, some of you may know me, and it's great to have you back if you have been to any of my seminars before. I've covered quite a lot of different topics with you, maybe over the last year, I think, but today we're talking about more everyday nutrition. And last time we spoke about how to suppress your appetite through nutrition using food. So it does link to that a little bit, but today we're more talking about food for focus and energy, not necessarily for dieting or for weight loss, but as a consequence, usually if you are eating these foods, as a result, you may actually lose some weight. So it's relevant for you as well, if you're thinking about weight loss and what you can do to build that. These foods will be very supportive, and these tips and hacks will be supportive for you as well in that goal. So I'm a registered nutritionist with a master's in personalized nutrition, and I have a private practice, and I work for various companies to help them formulate products. I help with nutrition education for different companies and universities like yourself. So my role is really varied, and I love it. I love food and I love people, so it's a great combination of the two. And okay, I have a question for everyone I'm putting to the floor. And there's no shame in this because I'm guilty of this too. But be honest and let me know in the chat if you've ever grabbed just a coffee and you've called it breakfast. Just say yes. If yes, that's me in the comments. If so, although unfortunately I can't see that what you're commenting at the time, so I have to look afterwards. But I'd like you to stay nice and interactive throughout the session, and we'll have a nice Q&A session at the end where you can ask your questions. So if anything comes up, a question that you have in your mind, feel free to put it in the box and we'll go through them at the end. So yes, I've been there before, and maybe I can see the chat. Yes, I see it. I'll try and take it off the screen. 1 second. Oh, has anyone put anything in there yet? I can't see no one said yes yet. Come on, there's no shame. I've definitely, yeah, been there in the past where you think, oh, I'm too busy for breakfast. It's just a coffee will have to do. Dr. Valkin, have you been there before?
Personally, I've not done coffee. I usually don't drink coffee personally, but I have some drinks, and it happens very often. For example, it's just about 10:07 a.m. for me. I'm in North Miami Beach, Florida, and
Mm.
every time I have to do this type of class, the time it takes for me to take showers and come in front of my office, I don't have time really to eat a solid breakfast. I just grab a little drink and that's it. That's gonna be for me until let's say 12 o'clock more or less for me to eat what we call a brunch, a
Mm.
combination of breakfast and lunch.
Oh yes. Yes, I love brunch too.
Yeah.
What drink would you normally have?
I have something that's called what's his name again? Granula. It's a popular drink that they use for people who want to control their diet, so to speak.
Mhm.
I am not really trending to control my diet. I don't care too much, but maybe I'm going to learn significantly from your session today. But I do consume this type of drinks to avoid that I have barely like 10 footballs. So that's about what I do. But I'm glad that you're saying that your presentation is not going to be about dieting. I love the topic of managing to fuel our brain and body for energy, focus, and health.
Absolutely. Oh, brilliant. Well, let's dive in. Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, like we was just saying, today's not about talking about dieting or cutting out food groups. It's about fueling
Mhm.
your brain and body for the best energy, focus, and health that you can get.
Okay.
So we're going to break down how to build really balanced snacks and soups and protein meals. And I'll give you simple tips as well that don't cost a fortune. So like a nice toolkit for, you know, more focus during your study days, less energy crashes, and a sharper mind, because who does not want any of those things?
Mhm.
So, a few facts here for you. Your brain is only 2% of your body weight, but it uses 20% of daily energy, and that is in the form of carbohydrates, mostly. A little bit of fat as well, but mostly carbohydrates. So, we'll get on to this later, but a lot of people say carbs are bad, we don't need carbohydrates. It's absolutely not true, because our brain really, really would struggle to function without any source of carbohydrates. That's its preferred fuel source is carbohydrates. It will use fats if it has to, but it's much, much more efficient at using carbohydrates. And then secondly, even really mild dehydration drops mental performance by 20%. So hydration really does matter just as much as caffeine. That could be, you might think you need caffeine, but actually you need a glass of water. I think it's easy to mistake the two sometimes. And then talking about blood sugar, we will be discussing this quite a lot. Blood sugar highs and lows lead to energy crashes and poor concentration. So when blood sugar is really steady, our focus and our mood are also steady. But when it spikes and crashes, it's like, hello, brain fog and lack of focus. So this is an example of a graph showing steady blood glucose and blood glucose that is going all over the place. So your blood glucose will never be a straight line. It will always fluctuate because of when we eat it. It does naturally go up. But we just want to make sure those spikes are shorter. They're not as large as those ones going into that red zone there. So if you have, for example, just toast or a sugary snack for breakfast, this steady curve is probably going to turn into a more steep curve. And when you have a balanced meal, that green line should be what's happening. And blood sugar is a big topical trending area at the moment of health. So, we can talk about that a bit more as well later on. But there is some use in knowing a bit about what your blood sugar is doing, but obsessing about your blood sugar 24/7 is not necessarily needed or a good and healthy thing or habit. So, core principles of balanced eating. Well, let's start with the basics. So, the power of three framework. Every snack or meal should include protein and fiber and healthy fats. This is the formula for creating stable blood sugar and stable focus too. So, this is the absolute foundation. You must make sure that this is number one, really, in your priority. Also, this helps with weight loss too, because it stimulates these appetite regulation hormones in the brain that tell you don't need to eat for, 4 hours, maybe, if you've had a balance of these different macronutrients. It's going to send those signals to your brain that you've had enough food, you've got what you need, and you won't get those cravings for sugar for quite a while. So protein, as you may know, is quite a hot topic at the moment. Protein keeps you full and it supports those brain chemicals that I was just mentioning with the appetite regulation. Fiber's job is also to expand the stretch signals in your stomach that tell your brain, again, you're full, because fiber is quite large in volume often. So then it stretches the stomach out. So that often the issue with those protein drinks, or maybe Dr. Valkin, what you were talking about, what you have earlier, sometimes the issue with those drinks is they don't keep you very full for long, even though they have protein, fats, and carbohydrates. They have those three elements, but the problem is that they don't expand the stomach very much. And you haven't had that chewing action that also tells your brain that you've had enough to eat. So if we're just drinking, we're missing those signals really, and we're missing that expansion of the stomach again, which tells our brain we're full. So that can lead to you wanting to eat more earlier on. And then healthy fats feed your brain. Because our brain does need those healthy fats. Ultimately, it needs the carbohydrates, but it also does need the fats to function. And it helps you absorb other vitamins too, which are essential for energy. So let's think of an example. So an apple on its own, you probably would notice you feel hungry in an hour. Now, if you add some peanut butter, you've got protein, fiber, and fat, and energy probably for several hours. And this study, actually from the University of Cambridge, which is my hometown where I live, a protein in the morning improves memory recall later in the day. That's what they found. So that's interesting, I think. The mechanism for that, I actually wouldn't even really quite know why that is. I mean, it's probably to do with blood sugar and your energy being more stable, but it's interesting that it even affects memory. Something you might not necessarily think of first of all with protein. So now I have a question for you all. Can you tell me in the chat, 1, 2, or 3, which of these breakfasts is going to be best for your energy? So the number 1, you have Greek yogurt, fruit, granola, nuts and seeds, and peanut butter. 2, toast with just jam, although it is whole grain toast. And then 3, you've just got this bowl of cereal, Cheerios. We have them in the UK. I don't know if you have this kind of cereal with the rings and some milk, whole milk in there. So can anyone put what they think, 1, 2, or 3?
Emanuela Sarre already said 3. He chose 3.
Who did? Sorry, I can't see.
Yeah. Let's say Wilson says 1. Party scan goes for number 1. Stella, let's do it instead on the chat box. If you don't mind, please. Thank you.
I can't
Uh,
see your faces. If you're holding up your fingers, I can't see. So if you can put it in the chat.
okay. All comments, please, in the chat block, ladies and gentlemen. CC Jules Haba prefers 1. Who else? It's open floor, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you. Number 1 for Bala Musa Kihera. Thank you for your participation.
Yes, thank you.
Stella, remember, you may put your choice in the chat box and we will read it for the entire audience. Very good involvement. Cesar Macamo chose 1. Mikuli 2. Bulimulelo 1. Dale Carnegie 1. Columbus Gelese 1. Stadio Sambani 1. Tad Delek not only chose 1, but he says 1 is the best. Beautiful. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters, for your participation. You may proceed, Miss Taylor.
Thank you. Yes, thank you everyone for that. So most of you did get that right. It was number 1 because, like someone mentioned, it's the best combination. You have everything in there. So healthy fats, fiber, protein, and I mean, when I say fiber, I really mean carbohydrates, because if you're having a whole grain source or a whole food source of carbohydrates, it will have fiber in. So even though fiber isn't technically a macronutrient, the macronutrients are carbohydrates, fiber, and fat. When I say fiber, I mean carbohydrates too. So just to clarify on that. Yes, so 1 would be a great option, and that's the option I usually have for my breakfast. But I have to be honest, I'm human too, and sometimes I want a piece of toast and jam. I want some cereal, and I do allow that sometimes if I feel that's what I want, because food is for enjoyment too. And 80/20 is usually a good principle to live by, 80% being the number 1 breakfast here, and then 20% could be the option 2 and 3. But I do try and take particular attention in the mornings because we know that the morning is the most important time for setting the tone for your blood sugar for the rest of the day. So studies have shown if you have a breakfast like 2 or 3, that you're more likely to have blood sugar crashes for the rest of the day, even if you eat quite stable or balanced meals for the rest of the day. So if you're going to get any meal right, I would really try and make that breakfast if possible. Okay, common myths. Oh, I love talking about myths and myth busting nutrition facts and yeah, debunking them. So let's talk about healthy snacks. Some people think just fruit is a healthy snack. Yes and no. It's always nuanced in nutrition. It's never a black and white answer. So if you if your normal snack is a pack of crisps, then for you probably having a portion of fruit would be a healthy option. But we can definitely make this even better by adding a source of protein to avoid sugar crash, because even in a whole food source uh, like fruit that's not being processed in any way, that can still give us a bit of a sugar crash, surprisingly, even though it does have fiber within it. Some fruits, particularly some more than others, like mango or let's think of like peaches and those more exotic type fruits, generally they will give us more of a sugar crash. But berries, generally they don't, they have quite a stable blood sugar effect. And bananas, it depends on how ripe they are. If they're very ripe, they can create a bit of a blood sugar drop as well after eating them. So my favorite option is always to add a bit of peanut butter, but if you're allergic or don't like them, then if you can go for a savory source of protein, maybe a little bit of cheese, or even cottage cheese can be quite nice with apple, for example. Just experiment and see what works for you and what is convenient, because a lot of the time we're on the go. In the UK, there's not many healthy snack options when you're out and about. So trying to be prepared is a really good idea, but not always that easy. I say as a busy mum myself, it's easier said than done to remember to bring a snack that is healthy. But I've bought some Tupperware just recently. I can put things like carrot sticks in and then a little portion of hummus. And yeah, that's kind of going to keep me full for an hour or two. So just a little bit of preparation sometimes is needed. So let's go on to myth number 2. Energy drinks equal real energy. They don't. It's fake energy, unfortunately, a temporary spike, and they don't provide us with any nutrition at all. And unfortunately, they have a lot of other things added into them. They might have some micronutrients in there, but they're usually in very small amounts. And sometimes they're even added just to give you that feeling of a bit of a boost of energy. So if you've ever had a bit of a tingly sensation from having an energy drink, that's actually because they put in something called niacin, B3, and that gives you that sensation. So it's almost to kind of make you feel like something's happening and you've got this energy burst. But so that's not too bad, because B vitamins, we need them for energy. But ultimately, what is in those energy drinks won't be good, and they will generally be very high in sugar. And often as well, when we're having lots of caffeine, it feels okay for the moment, but then it's a bit like blood sugar crashes. We then get the crash after because it's blocking something called adenosine, which is the hormone that makes us feel sleepy. And then it all kind of comes crashing in. Once that caffeine wears off, it floods in, and then we feel even worse afterwards. And myth number 3, protein is expensive. Well, yes, this can be true. I'm a vegetarian myself, and I find it's a lot cheaper for me to get my protein than it is for my husband, who eats a lot of meat. So I do rely on beans and lentils and tofu. Actually, I haven't put tofu here, but it is in the UK, tofu is very cheap and it's very filling and it's nutritious. and it's a great source of soy and different micronutrients too, as are lentils and beans too. So in the UK, we have an issue with our soil being overfarmed. We have a lot of nutrient depletion. And because of this, we're not getting the nutrients we need from our fruits and vegetables. And we're all very quite low in particularly minerals like magnesium. And a way to try and fill that gap is to have more things like lentils and beans and pulses because they're a great source of magnesium and other micronutrients. And the cheaper cuts of meat, like organ meats, are actually really very dense in nutrition as well. So it depends if you can stomach them. Not everyone can, liver and things, but they are full of nutrients. If you think we store our nutrients in our livers, so it's the same for the animal, all their nutrients are stored there. So when you eat it, of course, you're then taking on all that nutrition in that animal liver. So, I mean, eggs can be fairly expensive, but compared to meat, not necessarily. And some tinned fish can be expensive, but not all. So it does depend. But we all know really from the research now that a diet that's based on pulses and beans and lentils are one of the healthiest diets you can have because they're so full of fiber and yeah, I won't go on a big tangent about that, but yeah. You can't have enough of those good stuff. Now, it does cause a bit of GI upset for some people having too many beans and pulses. So I would just recommend going low and slow with those to build up your tolerance and make sure you stay really hydrated too. And another one that annoys me as a vegetarian is that people say it's not vegetarian meals and a diet isn't high in protein. And that's not true because just 1 cup of cooked lentils is 18 grams of protein, similar to 3 eggs. So not too challenging at all when you're intentional about it. And I think this one, a lot of people now know that this is not true because it's kind of been debunked over the last 10 years. But I feel like some people still aren't sure. So it's always a good one to clarify that low fat foods are not healthier. In fact, when food companies take out fat, they actually have to add in more sugar or starch to make it taste just as good. And then we're not getting the healthy fats as well that our body needs to absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K. Then carbs are bad. Oh, I touched on this one earlier. Carbs are bad for you. This is my least favorite one that people say. And the problem is more in the refined carbs, where you just have a lonely carb, I call it, where you have a white toast, cereal bars, sweets, and things like that. Like cereal as well counts, or white pasta. And this will, on their own, they will spike blood sugar and leave you feeling really drained afterwards. So it's never black and white in nutrition. It's always nuanced. Okay, I have some of my favorite snack ideas here. So I like to think of a snack as a mini meal, not just quick sugar. So I think when people think of a snack, they think, oh, what's a bit of sugar that I can grab to boost my energy? And that's going to be a bit of fake energy. It's going to give you that kind of boost of dopamine and those feel good brain chemicals, but it's actually going to make you feel really depleted afterwards. So I think of it as a mini meal, not just quick sugar, where you've got that balance again of the 3 macronutrients and really want a snack to satiate you probably for a couple of hours. So these would probably do that. These different options here, like fruit with protein or fat, apple and peanut butter, banana, and a boiled egg. Those are good combinations. And dark chocolate, ideally, although I am very partial to milk chocolate, so you don't always have to go for dark chocolate, but if you like it, the darker the better for the polyphenols, which are great for your boosting brain boosting effects. Let's say those flavonoids, yeah, in the chocolate and in nuts will help give you that boost of brain function. And they are a really good source of magnesium as well, which a lot of us are depleted in due to that soil the soil kind of not getting that time to rest and regenerate and get all the nutrients back in, because we're trying to feed so many people that we don't get that time for the soil to kind of breathe. Plus, we're all very stressed, and our body tends to burn through different minerals really, really quickly when we're stressed too. And then lastly, this snack here is roasted chickpeas. This is so delicious. I really highly recommend everyone to give this a try because it's so cheap to make. Particularly chickpeas are very cheap, but you could get edamame, and that's quite reasonable too. And a really good savoury alternative to crisps. So I've never been a crisps person myself, but some people really crave that saltiness from crisps and the kind of texture of it. So this is a great option for you that's going to keep you a lot more satiated, and it's going to be a lot more supportive for your health as well. Another one would be rice cakes and cottage cheese, maybe like a bit of paprika on or something, could be quite nice as well, or a bit of apple slices maybe on top. So yeah, when in doubt, just think, what protein or fat source can I add right now to this snack? We don't want lonely carbs. Oh, I don't know. I had a background on this and I don't know why it's gone to, so you can't really see the writing very well. Sorry about that. So what I've put here is it was a study by the British Journal of Nutrition in 2020 that showed that balanced snacks, where they had protein and fiber and then reduced any energy dips by 40% versus carb only snacks. I think that's quite drastic. Okay, now on to soups, my favorite hack to get loads of nutrition in a cheap and easy way, and a preppable way as well, that you can put them in the freezer. And the best thing I think for me about soups is that they don't leave me feeling really sluggish after having them after lunch. I don't get that post-lunch slump. I don't know if anyone relates to that, put that in the chat if you get the post-lunch slump. Yeah, so soups, they generally don't give you that really sluggish feeling afterwards because they're just not quite so heavy in carbohydrates. And what I've noticed as a nutritionist is that a lot of people will base their meals on carbohydrates. So they build their plate around pasta, for example, or rice, and that is the main section of their meal. And then they add maybe some protein and some vegetables or things on top. But we've kind of got it back to front. Really, it should be the vegetables that are providing the base for our meals, a little bit of carbs and some fat as well, and protein, of course. So soups kind of naturally have that nice balance between them because you obviously need a vegetable, and you can make them without a source of protein, but of course I would recommend to always add in some beans or pulses because you can't taste them. Or peas are also a good option you could blend in. So they provide extra protein and extra nutrients without changing any of the taste. You can use frozen veg, so you don't need to do any peeling or chopping, you don't get any waste, and frozen veg retains its nutrients more than fresh because they are frozen straight away once they're harvested. So they don't sit on a shelf and lose their vitamin C content, for example. And yeah, some of my top tips here. Oh, I've kind of mentioned a few of them already. Adding olive oil as a source of fat at the end is a really good idea so that you then can absorb those nutrients in the soup. And I've got a few examples of my favorites here that I always batch make. Tomato and lentil soup, really simple and classic, but it's providing 14 grams of protein. I mean, you could say that's not quite enough for lunch. What you could do is add in some cream cheese on top and like just stir it in. Or you could have some toast and some cottage cheese on the side. Or you could have some yogurt for dessert and you would be getting up to probably about 20 grams, which is perfect for lunch. And 11 grams of fiber, which is amazing because we want to get about 30 grams of fiber a day. The guidelines are slightly different varying on the country, but 25-30 grams is about what is recommended for most people. You get iron and B vitamins from lentils, so those are going to support your energy. And yeah, stable energy release. So great study fuel too. And another soup I love is Thai carrot and coconut soup with blended chickpeas. 12 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber, and you've got healthy fats from the coconut milk, tastes so good. And beta carotene, which is what makes carrots orange, is so good as an antioxidant for helping your brain stay in good shape as well. So yeah, give those a go. I'll send out the slides so you can take those recipes that I use all the time, when you're next meal prepping. And yeah, they're so easy to freeze as well, and they don't take up much room in the freezer. Yeah, you can tell I love a soup. So now, protein meals on a budget. Protein doesn't mean expensive meat or protein powder, don't you worry, because protein powder can be very expensive. And actually, protein powder is really just the waste product of creating milk and cheese. So it's not particularly high quality. You can get high quality protein, but a lot of it isn't. And you really want to the whey isolate protein powder is very much more absorbed than the non-isolate version, but it is more expensive. So yeah, I think protein powder can be really useful and very helpful. For me personally, if I'm making a smoothie for breakfast and I want to make sure I've got a source of protein, I do add often a scoop of protein powder in there so that I've got a balance of everything. It's going to keep me fuller for longer, but it's definitely not essential. And my tips would be, I mean, I'm vegetarian, but I do occasionally eat fish, and I go for like tinned fish. That's it's quite a lot cheaper than the fresher versions. And it's cheap omega-3 brain food. And we know those omega-3s are so essential. We have to get them from our diet. So you must try and have some oily fish sources at least once a week. And I don't know, it might be different where you are, but we've been having a lot of these new products come in, like red lentil pasta or chickpea pasta, which is great because it doubles the protein and it's so much more fiber in there. And it might be a little bit more cost per serving, but it should be relatively similar. And if you're stuck for time, you just need a quick protein source with nutrition, you could go for eggs and frozen spinach, and you've got a 2-minute omelette ready to go. So just to reiterate the quick plate formula that I would go to as a kind of just your basic formula for creating a balanced meal. Half a plate of veg, really unlimited veg you can go for there. You don't have to limit yourself there, particularly on the non-starchy vegetables, which are vegetables grown above the ground. Vegetables grown below the ground, they are starchy vegetables, and they do tend to have a higher carbohydrate content and a higher glycemic load. So they will have more of a blood sugar effect for you. So things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, swede, carrots, whereas things grown above the ground like tomatoes, and I think everything else, all those leafy green veg basically, will be the best option for you. But you can have some starchy vegetables too, of course, but try and base on those ones grown above the ground. Quarter of a plate of protein, quarter carbs, and then some healthy fat as well. If you're more of a visual person, you can think about having 1 palm serving of protein and 1 fist of carbs, and then 1 serving of veggies and fruit would be a fist, at least that, maybe more if you can, particularly if they're cooked, because you know how vegetables often they condense, don't they, when they cook. So make sure that's like the cooked amount is at least a fist, and then a thumb size amount of fat. And then another study found that students eating 20 grams of protein per meal reported fewer cravings and better mood stability. So I hope I'm providing a good case for you to increase your protein intake here. And energy and focus hacks beyond food. These are things you just need to make sure are in check, because all those things are really important, but ultimately if we're not hydrated properly, we're not going to actually feel the effects of, or we're not going to feel very good at all. Even just a 1% dehydration affects our focus. So there is some talk about if you're dehydrated, if you're hungry, you're just, make sure you're not dehydrated, and don't confuse the two. Yes, I would always make sure have a glass of water half an hour before you eat, because that can help you also not overeat when you're having that meal. But yeah, that's just really important, especially if you're an active person. And you might want to also add salt to your water if you sweat a lot or you exercise a lot, to provide those electrolytes and all the essential minerals that we need, which, like I said, we're quite low in a lot of these essential minerals. Actually, particularly if you're a woman, just to be aware of that particularly as well. And that's going to help your brain function at a higher level too, when we have all those electrolytes. And we do need sodium and salt in the diet, so we don't need to cut out salt completely, because sodium is essential. And caffeine timing, the best time to have your caffeine is about probably 90 minutes after you wake up, if you're going to have any. And that's because when we wake up, we get a spike of cortisol. And by having caffeine, that can create a little bit of a double spike situation going on, which can stress out the body and increase things like adrenaline and cortisol, which are things we don't want to really be too high in the body. So I would go for about 90 minutes after you wake, or after you've had some food, and or early afternoon is fine too, just not first thing. Although sometimes I have to say I'm a little bit guilty of this, because if you're running out the house, you really need that cup of coffee. Life happens, doesn't it? And then sleep food link. We know that if people wake up at about 2 in the morning, that can be a red flag that they have blood sugar imbalance issues. So, and it might be that they're eating too late at night, or they're having too much sugar at night as well, because it then causes you to have that lighter sleep. And then if you're not sleeping well, or we know what happens after that, the next day you're going to be experiencing brain fog and way more cravings, and then the cycle sort of continues. Okay, I think that's everything I want to say on that. And then this is like part 2 for energy and focus hacks beyond food. This is more on the kind of money side of things and being efficient there and organized. So buy frozen fruit and veg. I always do whenever I can. It's cheaper and there's less waste, and it's more nutritious too. And tinned beans, chickpeas, fish, yeah, all of these are great because they have that long shelf life and high nutrition. And they often sometimes, like tuna will come in oil, so it actually can help you have that source of fat already in there too, ready to go. Although you just sometimes have to be a bit careful about the type of oil that it's in. Sometimes it's in sunflower oil. We want to make sure we're not having too much of that. Olive oil would be the best, but it would be more expensive. And I've started doing this, looking at the unit price per 100 grams, not the shelf price. Quite obvious, I know, but sometimes we just forget to do these things. And trying to set aside 1 hour, it doesn't have to be on a Sunday, just whenever you can, slot that in every week. And then you've got your healthy lunches sorted all week, because I do think lunches are usually where people struggle the most in staying healthy, and that really affects your focus for the rest of the day, what you have for lunch. And a big tip is to go for a walk for about 10 minutes after you have your lunch. That will help your muscles absorb all that glucose, and so it's not going to be circulating in your blood, but actually that sugar has somewhere to go, and it'll go into your brain, and you won't get that slump quite as much. Don't worry, I'm nearly there. Just a few more slides to go, and then I'll take it to the floor. So where I've got a quick checklist for you. Always think, where's my protein? Aiming for 20 grams per meal, that palm-sized amount. Where's your fiber? Vegetables and whole grains will give you that. And where's your fat? Nuts, seeds, and olive oil. So I don't want to sound like a broken record, but those are your 3 important things as a foundation to think of. So for example, having a chicken wrap, and then you'd add avocado to make it balanced. And if you're having instant noodles, think about adding an egg and some frozen veg to make it balanced. So you don't, in my opinion, you don't need to count calories to be healthy or to lose weight. You just need to look for these 3 building blocks. True or false? What do we think? Frozen, hopefully you've been listening, and these are fairly easy to answer. Frozen veg is less nutritious than fresh. Does anyone want to put that in the chat? True or false? although I don't have that much time to look. So, oh, someone's already put one in. Thank you. Feel free to quickly put your answer in there. Yes, good.
We have some inputs already. Janet Ogunsola says it's false. Sunel Philogene false. Clover Henry Wright false. Taylor Sambane, everybody says false.
Good, good.
Joe Alpha Gate, Aban Stephen, Eze, Stanley, everybody believes it's false.
You are correct. So just checking that you've been listening. Yeah, absolutely. Frozen veg, I think more, and fruit that is almost always going to be more nutritious than fresh. The only time sometimes I prefer to go for fresh is if I'm having it, not cooked in a meal. And sometimes things like broccoli, they get a bit mushy sometimes. So depending what you make, it might be you do want to get some things fresh. And you can only get protein from meat. What do we think? I hope that's quite an easy one to answer. You want to quickly put that in the chat, true or false, to whether you can only get protein from meat.
And it's time also again for you to play, brothers and sisters. The chat box still open. True, Manuela Asare. Who else?
Yes.
Take your games, brothers and sisters. Francis, Malcolm, false. Ismaila Debola, true. Shoal Fage, false. Jedin Gossa, let's see. It's an invitation for you, sisters, brothers. Fall Jedi, Samuel, false. Eze, yes. Columbus, false. Ismaila Debola,
Good.
false. I don't know what you wrote, Stella. They wait, true, false, true. Ah, okay, for each one of these statements. True for the first one, false for the second, true for the third.
Yeah.
Very well organized, Stella. All right, we have about 15 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just coming to my
uh,
last slide now. So I just wanted to make sure you've been listening. And well, just to go over point number 2, you obviously can get protein from so many sources, as many of you already said. So, or you already put that that was false. So the only thing to know is that sometimes protein from vegetarian sources don't have as much of the amino acids that we need, where we need a whole source of these different amino acids to build up protein in the body. So it's always good to pair, if you're a vegetarian and you're having beans and lentils, to pair lots of these proteins together so that you then get that full profile of amino acids to help build up protein in the body. Whereas meat will always have all essential amino acids, so it will be absorbed a bit better usually, but doesn't mean that meat is better or worse. It's just, yeah, you just have to be a bit smarter with the way that you eat your vegetarian sources of protein. And then dark chocolate can be a brain stack. Yes, it definitely can, which is a nice thing to know. And it's good for your gut health as well because of all those polyphenols. So it helps to feed the good gut bacteria as well. And conclusion and Q&A time. So as I try to always tell people, we want to think about balance, not restriction, and thinking about what you can add into your plate, not what you can take away. What colors can you add in? What different types of foods can you get in there, so that hopefully you can get 30 different types of plants in a week. That is the gold standard. And that's what different studies are saying now is the best for our overall health and our gut health. And that includes things like spices, herbs, different teas, nuts, seeds, legumes, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. Oh, have I missed anything there? All different plants basically count there. So Try and pick up something new every time you go to the shops, a new food that you haven't tried before, because your gut will definitely thank you for it. And yeah, small swaps, thinking about reducing ultra processed foods and bringing in more whole foods will help with lots of energy and focus gains. And then food is your study partner. So think of it as like helping you in your studies and having that optimal health, brain and focus. So if you fuel your brain, you're not just feeding your body, you're supporting your focus, your memory, and ultimately your future. So that's why food is, in my opinion, so critical. Food and nutrition is one of the most important things to work on and because it has an impact on everything. So I will now see if you have any questions for the last 10 minutes or so. Thank you so much for listening.